Hi there. I want to talk about mixed conditionals during this video. Mixed conditionals. Now, if you are an upper intermediate or advanced student, then this is a video definitely for you. What do we need to make a mixed conditional? Well, to do that, we do have to do a little bit of revision. Let's start with the word conditional. So we know that conditional, the root word of conditional is condition. The word condition is a noun. And it has a number of meanings. But when we talk about using conditionals in English, we're talking about expressing a consequence or a result of something. So condition means that we need to have something in place, something must exist to create something else. So we have to have something there that exists to create a result. For example, I'd love a cup of tea right now, but I need tea, right? Here are some tea leaves. I need tea leaves to be able to make the tea. So that's the condition. The condition to make a cup of tea is that I need the tea. If I had tea right now, I would make a cup of tea. First conditional. So the chances of me being able to make a cup of tea are quite high. And so this brings me now to talking about the variations that we use to express the idea that you need something in place to create something else. So conditional sentences always have two clauses. The first clause is the conditional clause, and the second clause is the result. It expresses the result of having whatever it is that we need. Now, the next thing to point out when we talk about conditionals, we have to talk about things that are real and also things that are not real. They are unreal. Now, if we talk about my tea, having a cup of tea, that's very real. We know that can happen. But if I said, if I met the Queen, I would invite her for dinner. That's unreal. I'm not going to meet the Queen, nor am I going to ask her for dinner, and even if that were true, she wouldn't come anyway. So it's unreal. Or if I said, if I were invisible, I would fly to the moon. Completely unreal. And so we can divide our conditionals between real and unreal, and we have four ways to express it. We have what we call zero conditional, we have first conditional, then we have a second conditional, and a third conditional. So when we talk about zero conditional and first conditional, we're talking about things that are real. When we talk about the second conditional and the third conditional, we talk about things that are unreal. So to talk about mixed conditionals, I'm going to divide them in two, and we're going to get rid of the real conditionals, and we're going to focus in on unreal conditionals, which are conditionals number 2 and 3. So let's do a little bit of a recap in terms of what second conditionals and third conditionals look like. So in this video, I'm going to give you 3 examples. So we will revisit those conditionals, and then I'll show you how we create a mixed conditional. Let's look at the first example. Example number 1. If I practiced playing the piano, I would play well. Let's look at the form for this. So we always use with the second conditional if plus the simple past. That's for the conditional clause. For the results clause, it's always would plus the base verb. Now we use second conditionals to talk about things that are highly unlikely. They're not necessarily impossible, but they are unlikely. If we look at the two clauses, even though we're using if plus the simple past, we're still talking about now. This is in the present time. If I practiced playing, if I did this in the past, if I do it today, and if I continue even into the future, I would play well. And obviously the results clause is also talking about now. Now in the third conditional, this is what we would say. If I had practiced playing the piano, I would have played well. Now here we're talking about the past, and the formula is always if plus the past perfect. For the conditional clause and for the results clause, it's always would have plus the past participle. Both of these clauses are in the past. So we could say if I had practiced playing the piano last week, I would have played well at the concert yesterday. So we can see that for the second conditional, we're talking about present and present. And in the third conditional, we're talking about the past and the past. Now let's talk about mixed conditionals. How would we mix the conditionals? It's really very simple. What we're going to do is mix the time frames. Let's have a look at this. If I practiced playing the piano, I would have played well last night. So here I've taken the first clause of the second conditional and put it together with the second clause of the third conditional. And similarly, we can do the opposite. We can say, if I had practiced playing the piano, I would play well. And here I've taken the first clause of the third conditional and I've mixed it with the second clause of the second conditional. So in other words, if I had practiced playing the piano as a child, now I would play well. And that makes perfect sense. Let's look at example number 2. Second conditional. If I studied medicine, I would be a doctor. Now this is, again, completely unrealistic because I didn't study medicine and therefore I'm not a doctor. But it's still not completely unlikely. Who knows? If I decide to study medicine, well, I could. Now, the third conditional, we would say, if I had studied medicine, I would have been a doctor. Both of these are in the past. So I didn't study medicine when I was younger, and so I didn't become a doctor. So the third conditional we can see is completely unrealistic. Now let's mix them up to show a mixed conditional. If I studied medicine, I would have been a doctor. And similarly, we could say if I had studied medicine, now I would be a doctor. So we can see here that it completely works if we change the clauses between the second and third conditionals. Let's look at example number 3. I have a friend called Mary and she wants to buy a new car, but, well, she needs to save money. She needed to save money in the past. So we could simply say this in the second conditional. If you saved, you would have a new car. This is highly unlikely because Mary didn't save any money, and so she doesn't have a new car. In the third conditional, we would say, if you had saved, you would have had a new car. And of course, this is completely impossible. Mary didn't save any money, and so she didn't end up with a new car. Both of them in the past. Now, let's try mixing this sentence. If you saved, you would have had a new car. And here we have the first clause of the second conditional with the results clause of the third conditional. And similarly, we could say, if you had saved, now you would have a new car. And that is the conditional clause of the third conditional mixed with the results clause of the second conditional. If you enjoyed this video, then definitely hit subscribe and the bell. I'm Larissa. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.